Hey folks, I have decided we Jesuits need to do something drastic. I actually was listening to a Dallas Theological Seminary podcast about the differences between Roman Catholicism and Protestantism. I have to admit, I was not raised Catholic. I didn't go to a Catholic school, so I didn't realize just how profound the differences are between what I believe as an evangelical Christian and what the Roman Catholic Church believes. And the differences are pretty profound. I found from listening to this podcast that the Roman Catholic Church has dogmas, which are considered infallible decrees, and you cannot consider yourself a Catholic, I think, unless, especially a Catholic leader, if you don't agree to these dogmas. And what I did is I listed all of these dogmas and some of the most important beliefs of the Catholic Church at my Gail Chord Schuler Jesuits doctrinal statement. I went through them one by one, and the ones that I disagree with, like I do not agree that Mary was infallible or that she was immaculately conceived and stuff like that. I also do not believe that you can be saved by the Mass. I don't think partaking of the Mass has anything to do with your salvation. Anyways, I actually went one by one with all of the dogmas that I disagree with. And I'd say it's about 50-50. About half of what the Catholic Church teaches I agree with, and about half of what they teach I don't agree with. I said, Gail, you're going to have to separate. So Zack Knight, you can contact me if this is a problem. But, Loree McBride is in court right now and claiming that I have no business being a Catholic leader because my doctrinal beliefs are so contrary to the dogmas of the Catholic Church. And you know what, Zack Knight? She's right. She's right. So there's only one solution, Zack. We have got to separate from the main Catholic Church and form our own church, which we will call. So the Jesuit Order, unless Zack contacts me later and says he's not going to do this, but he's been talking to me brain to brain and saying he thinks this is a good idea. The Jesuit Order has now officially divorced itself from the main Catholic Church, and we're starting over as a Catholic Church so that we can follow Christ according to our conscience and what we believe is a more true to the Bible and to what Jesus would want for our church. So I have a very, very detailed doctrinal statement where I go one by one because we're going to have a lot of ex-Catholics on our side. And Loree McBride is excommunicated as a Jesuit, and we can do this because we are divorced from the main Catholic Church, which means in spite of the fact that many of my beliefs are contrary to Catholic dogmas, because we are no longer part of the main Catholic Church but are now separate and we call ourselves the Gail Chord Schuler Jesuits, we are still the Jesuit order. We have just divorced ourselves from the main Catholic Church. And I wrote in my conspiracy law, and actually I'm going to state that my Gail Chord Schuler Jesuits doctrinal statement is part of conspiracy law. So the way this works is we're going to take a vote from every member of the Catholic Church and let them decide if they want to join us in splitting from the main Catholic Church. We will retain Catholic traditions, which the Catholics like the Mass and stuff like that. But we have a different interpretation of these things than the Catholic Church has traditionally held. And like I said, it's too complicated to explain in a video. Just go ahead and read, those of you who are Roman Catholics and who want to join us in separating from the main Catholic Church, read the doctrinal statement. And if you like what you're reading and you want to join us, then you can be a member of the Gail Chord Schuler Jesuits as a Catholic. We'll probably still call ourselves Catholics. Maybe we just won't use the word Roman Catholics. Maybe we're basically the Jesuit order has split from the main Catholic Church, and we call ourselves the Gail Chord Schuler Jesuits. We will retain the title Jesuits. Zack Knight has been the traditional leader of the Jesuits, and he's been their head for a long time, and he's entitled to do whatever he wants with the Jesuit order. If he wants to split from the main Catholic Church, that's fine. Now, the way it's going to work is this. Every single member of the Catholic Church, we're going to contact them and have them vote whether they want to stay with the main Catholic Church or join our split-off group, which we're going to call the Gail Chord Schuler Jesuits. Let's say 80% of the Catholic Church joins with us. Then that means we are entitled to 80% of the holdings and wealth of the Vatican and the Catholic Church. And anything that has traditionally belonged to the Jesuit order will belong to us because we are the Jesuits. We have just reformed and we're separating from the main Catholic Church. Okay? And our doctrinal statement is basically the same as Dallas Theological Seminary, but I've gone into more detail because we have a lot of Catholics in our membership, and I've actually listed out every single one of the dogmas of the Catholic Church, including their most important beliefs and what my doctrinal stance is on that. I think Zack Knight will agree with my positions. He respects me as a Bible scholar. I'm a theological genius. And I basically tried to put forth a doctrinal statement for our church that honors Jesus, whom I've met with one-on-one, and that also honors the Bible. So we're basically trying to be a church that honors the Bible and Jesus. And I've met with Jesus many times, so I know a lot about what he would like in a church. We're not dumping everything that the Catholics believe. A lot of what they believe is correct. But some of what they believe is not biblically correct. Anyways, you just go ahead and read that. So, Loree McBride has been officially excommunicated from the Jesuit order. She cannot call herself a Jesuit. She cannot use the Jesuit military. And she cannot use anything that has been traditionally Jesuit property. We are separated from the main Catholic Church. So in spite of the fact that my beliefs are contrary to a lot of the Catholic dogmas, because we are no longer considered a part of the main Catholic Church, but are still considered Jesuits, I didn't read any law in there that said that a Jesuit can't separate from the main Catholic Church. So the Jesuit order has done that. And we have our own dogmas, and they're different from the main Catholic Church. Some of them are the same, and some of them are different. And now, going by our new doctrinal statement, I can legitimately be called a Jesuit. See, before she was saying, well, you don't believe in that the Virgin Mary was divinely conceived, that she's sinless. And you don't believe that she remained a virgin for her whole life. So because you disagree with our dogmas, Gail can't be a Jesuit. And you know what? Loree was right. As long as the Jesuit order was part of the main Catholic Church, which meant that we honored the dogmas, I couldn't be a Jesuit because I didn't agree with those dogmas. She was right, Zach. So we got to separate. So we're going to separate from the main Catholic Church. And now we are not bound to those Catholic dogmas because we are no longer Catholic, Roman Catholic. We are the Gail Chord Schuler Jesuits. Now, my personal opinion, I think a lot of the Catholic traditions are nice, and they're very reverent and nice, but I think they make the following Jesus so stinking complicated. Jesus never meant for it to be that complicated. His main concern is that we have faith in our hearts and love in our hearts, and that we're tolerant and loving people. That's all he cares about. All this other junk, like worshiping the Mass, worshiping relics and all this stuff, that's almost like idolatry. If you love that stuff more than you love Jesus, you've taken away from the simplicity of following Jesus, and you're adding in all these extra things you don't need to do that you just get proud about, and there's no reason to be proud about them. Like, what good does it do to honor the Mass and be a devout Catholic if you're going around murdering and raping people like Loree McBride does? So we're just getting right down to being the kind of Christian that honors Jesus as he was in the Gospels and in the New Testament and in the Bible. And that's the kind of church we want to be. And we're trying to get rid of all these rules that are making it harder than it should be. So, Catholics out there, we will allow you to have things like the Mass and all the things you're used to doing. but we have a different interpretation of those events. We're not as dogmatic about it as a lot of the Catholics have been. So if you want to join us, join with us. After we've taken a vote of all the Catholics in the world, and depending on what percentage of them come over to our church, that will determine how much of the holdings of the Vatican and the Catholic Church will also come over to our side. So the Jesuit order is splitting from the main Catholic Church. Okay? And depending on how many people we get, that determines how many of the holdings of the Vatican that we get. Loree McBride is no longer a Jesuit. Unfortunately, she can still remain a Catholic because we are no longer associated with that church. And she is not entitled to have anything that has been traditionally Jesuit property, including the military or any of that. She's been excommunicated. And now that we've separated from the main Catholic Church and have our own doctrinal stand, which is different from the main Catholic Church, we are entitled to do this. We can still call ourselves the Jesuits. We've reformed. We are separate from the main Catholic Church. We're like an off branch from them. So I just want to go ahead and read our doctrinal statement, and Catholics out there, read it and decide if you want to join with us. We meet with the real Jesus, and we are more concerned about what's in your heart and that you have love in your heart than all these externals. In the Catholic Church, the emphasis has always been on externals, like outwardly appearing pious, while inwardly you could have a heart like scorpions. We don't tolerate that stuff. In our church, we honor the heart above everything. So I just wanted to make that announcement. So Zack Knight, go ahead and read the changes I've made to the Catholic dogmas and what I can live with and what I can't. I've decided we've had to separate. So Loree McBride, I'm sure she's going to still fight us in court, but I think I've strengthened our case legally. She actually had a legitimate case, Zach. I can't be a Catholic. I disagree with about half of their dogmas, so we got to separate. But I can be a Jesuit, as long as we are a Reformed Jesuit. So we've split from the main Catholic Church, but we're still Jesuits. It's just that Zack Knight has basically become more evangelical in his doctrines. And so anyways, if you want to add more to the doctrines, I think he's going to be perfectly happy with what I've done. So Catholics out there, read my doctrinal statement, and maybe on the Gabrielle Chana FOX News Channel 00 on cable, Zack Knight might make some announcements to you or whatever, and decide if you want to join us. Depending on what percentage of the Catholic Church we get, that'll determine which of the holdings of the Catholic Church. We might end up getting the Vatican. I think Pope Francis is going to come over to our side. So the Jesuit order has split from the main Catholic Church, and Loree McBride is excommunicated as a Jesuit. She cannot have any Jesuit property.